Good afternoon, everyone. We'd like to thank you all for joining us this afternoon. My name is Tiffany Trent, and I'll be your moderator for this presentation of the final public meeting of Lake Minneola Harmful Algal Bloom Management and Prevention using Lake Guard technology. First, I'd just like to go over some general housekeeping items. If you'll notice, all of our attendees are on mute and will remain on mute throughout the presentation. We do have two panels with which you can communicate. The first one is the questions tab. So if you'll click on the questions tab, you can find a dialog box that you can type your questions for our presenters. And we'll get to those questions at the end of the presentation, but if we happen to run out of time, our presenters will type out an answer to your question later, and then we'll post those on our website. And the second panel is the chat tab. And this is just for communicating amongst yourselves and with other attendees. So if you have a question that is specific for our presenters, please don't type it in the chat tab. Please just use the questions tab because that's the one we're going to be monitoring. And lastly, this meeting will be recorded and posted on our website. So if you missed something in the presentation or you want to go back over it again later, this will be up for you to view in just a couple of days. And I'd also like to remind our presenters and staff to please keep yourself on mute unless you're presenting. And now I'll introduce our first presenter for today. First up is Dr. Dean Dauberful. Dean is the Water Resources Bureau Chief with the St. Johns River Water Management District. And his area of expertise is aquatic ecology, and he has been with the agency for 22 years. And Dean, I'm going to give it to you and take it away.
Hey, thank you, Tiffany. Yeah, I just want to show a couple quick slides, kick this off. I just want to let everybody know how we got here, what was the background on this project, and what we've done as the water management district up to this point. So very quick recap. Next slide, Tiffany, please. So this project got kicked off in response to the governor's executive order 1912. The Florida legislature appropriated funding in fiscal year 2019 for innovative technology projects related to harmful algal blooms. And that was a response to the governor's executive order. The St. Johns River Water Management District submitted a proposal to the Florida Department of Environmental Protection on behalf of Bluegreen Water Technologies in December of 2019. And FDEP selected Bluegreen Water Technologies for one of those innovative grant awards in February of 2020. I would like to thank all of the other agencies. This required quite an extensive list of partners. We had to work closely with the Department of Environmental Protection, the Department of Agriculture and Consumer Services, Florida Fish and Wildlife Conservation Commission, Department of Health, and also with the Lake County Water Authority. So very extensive collaboration between those agencies to get this project off the ground. And after quite a bit of work, Bluegreen Water Technologies formally began work in November of 2020, so just fall of last year. Next slide, Tiffany. Ultimately, there's quite a few lakes in Florida, quite a few impaired lakes, but ultimately we decided on Lake Minneola. Lake Minneola is a relatively large lake near Claremont in central Florida. It was selected because of a history of algal blooms and what appears to be increasing levels of algae productivity and bloom activity. And I think what really tipped the balance for our selection for Lake Minneola was a particularly bad algal bloom that occurred in 2020. And here you can see pictures of that bloom. These are photos from Mr. Fred Summer and show pretty dramatic blooms throughout the lake. So that really convinced us that that algal blooms were particularly bad in this lake, and the public really loved this lake. It's a heavily used lake, so we thought it was perfect to test this technology. Next slide. One of the keystone principles of this project has really been public involvement and outreach. We've really tried to keep the public involved throughout this process. And both we as the Water Management District and I will say Bluegreen has done a phenomenal job also interacting with the public and keeping people informed. So we did have an online public presentation and meeting to kick this off in July 2020. We had quite a few public that attended that and had the opportunity to ask questions. We provided treatment notifications, which are sent to interested residents and other parties that coincide with lake treatments that occur in Lake Minneola. We have a district website that's updated with treatment notifications and direct contact information, either to Bluegreen, Water Technologies, or ourselves. And that portal also gave residents the opportunity to report algal blooms. And finally, we committed to the public to have a final public meeting, which is where we are today, to present results of this pilot study and answer any questions from the public regarding this study. So that brings us to today. It's been a successful test of the technology, I think, and I am excited to be able to share the results with interested stakeholders. So thank you for attending, and I'll hand it back to you, Tiffany.
Great. Thank you very much for that, Dean. We appreciate it. In just a second, I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Walid Nasser, but I'm just going to go ahead and introduce him now. Dr. Nasser completed his education and training as a microbiologist at the Texas Medical Center in Houston. He served as a consultant for Bluegreen Water Technologies since its establishment in 2014, and he joined the company as a director in 2019 when the U.S. entity was incorporated. And Walid has led the company's operations in the U.S., including 3 major projects in the state of Florida. And Walid, if you'll give me just a moment, I can turn this over to you. And just so you know, if you're talking, you're still on mute. Okay, there you go.
So you see my screen, Tiffany?
Yes, yes.
Yes. Thank you all for joining us today, and for me to have the opportunity to share the results we had at Lake Minneola. So today I'm going to talk about Lake Minneola harmful algal bloom management and prevention using the lake guard technology. Today's presentation, I'm going to focus on the technology overview. I'm going to show you the project goals and the results, and I'm going to end up with concluding remarks. But before I start, the picture on the right, this is Lake Minneola. This picture was taken in February 2021. I just want to mention our appreciation and our gratitude for the governor of Florida, for the DEP, for St. John's River Water Management District to allow us to treat this lake that we all come to love and appreciate. But before I start all that, let me tell you a little bit about our company. So Bluegreen Water Technology was established in 2014. It had its first commercial products in 2018. After that, it went global, so it became a global company, forming entities in different continents, including in the US in the year of 2019. When the company went global, its main focus was remediation of harmful algal bloom, but after that, it became more focused on water technology in general, and the main purpose of the company is making water safe. At the moment, we're developing different technologies and different monitoring tools to be able to monitor water quality and be able to respond to any adverse effect of the water environment as quickly as we can. We are still developing more products and more technology to keep the water safe. In the background pictures that you've seen pictures from different continents of some of the projects we've been engaged in the past 3 years or so. So, but today's focus is going to focus on one part of what our company does, which is the remediation of harmful algal bloom. So, to date, Bluegreen Water Technologies has thousands of successful commercial applications in Israel, United States, Russia, China, and South Africa. We gained enough experience and hands-on experience in treating harmful algal blooms in large lakes, and we identified and know the main principles for successful treatment, namely is when to treat, where to treat, and how to treat. One of our technologies is the LakeGuard technology, and one of the products in the LakeGuard technology is the LakeGuard Oxy. The LakeGuard Oxy is a floating and time-releasing formulation of hydrogen peroxide, or H2O2, and this technology allows the product to float so it can move with the currents and winds of the natural movements of the water. It will mimic in a way the movement of cyanobacteria in the water home into it and start time releasing the hydrogen peroxide, and the floating aspect with the time release mechanism allows us to treat large lakes in the hundreds and thousands of acres. So the LakeGuard Oxy is safe to humans and animals. At any given minute or any given moment, it delivers very low concentrations of hydrogen peroxide. Hydrogen peroxide decomposes quickly into water and oxygen, so this compound is eco-friendly, it's safe to human and pets, and does not persist or accumulate in the environment. The LakeGuard technology also allowed to treat scalable on large lakes. We can quickly respond to any event of harmful algal bloom. We can see immediate results. Our products mainly triggers biological signaling in cyanobacteria called apoptosis-like programmed cell death, or PCD. Our main target is the cyanobacteria. Our product targets the toxic species of the cyanobacteria, allowing the environment, allowing the aquatic environment to be restored and to restore the phytoplankton biodiversity. Once we have a biodiverse environment, it's a healthier lake, and once the lake is healthy, it can fend off any resurgence of cyanobacteria, as some of these organisms will compete with cyanobacteria for important resources. As Dean, Dr. Doubleford just mentioned, we applied for an innovative technology grant with three main goals. That has to be cost efficient, environmentally safe, and scalable. Lake Minneola was chosen because of a history of recurring episodes of harmful algal blooms. Lake Minneola is about 2,000 acres in size, and the main objective of the project were first to remediate any harmful algal blooms, and then maintain the lake bloom-free and safe for recreational activity. One key parameter that we kept monitoring throughout the project is that we have to keep cyanotoxin level concentration below 2 parts per billion. The EPA deems 8 parts per billion or above to be unsafe, and that's why we want to keep it even much lower than the 8 ppb standard. A main aspect of our project was a comprehensive monitoring. We monitored the lake daily, and then we went to weekly monitoring. The extensive monitoring included remote sensing, visual inspection, digital water parameters, and we took a lot of water samples, sent it to chemical labs and cyano labs. We did a lot of microscopy, cell count. We measured regularly, on a regular basis, from different points in the lake or different sampling points in the lake, cyanotoxin level, and we even employed some sequencing technology to understand the complexity of the lake. Of note, all laboratory work was completed by third-party independent labs. There were three major phases of the project. It started with comprehensive assessment using our monitoring tools I mentioned, then intervention, where we wanted to reduce cyanotox or cyanobacterial levels. And from there, we moved to the maintenance. So first, we studied the lake extensively. We devised treatment protocol to lower the cyanobacterial load in the lake, and then we applied treatments to do so. And all this work was in partnership with Monica and Associates. So Clark and Jordan, thank you so much, and your team for partnering with us and keeping Lake Minneola safe and open for recreation throughout this project. So after we finished the assessment and interventional treatments, we moved into the maintenance phase. Keeping Lake Minneola bloom-free is an easy task if we continue doing the proper monitoring of 2 to 4 times a month and applying preventive and localized treatments as we go. During the maintenance phase, we noticed that I'm trying to put my cursor here so you can see it. During the maintenance phase, we noticed that a lot of cyanobacterial cells were actually flowing from south to Lake Minneola, and that's why we have to keep an open eye on the lake and prevent any cyanobacteria from taking hold in the lake, accumulating in mass, in biomass, and then causing harm to the environment. So during the maintenance, we noticed that Lake Minnehaha to the south and Lake Palatalcaha to the south were heavily blooming during the month of February and March. These blooms were flowing into Lake Minneola, and we have to keep it bloom-free. Of note, if you have heavy blooms, our technology can treat it. Just towards the end of the project of Lake Minneola, we were asked by the DEP and South Florida Water Management District to head to C-43 canal or the Caloosahatchee River and treat residential canal that suffered from heavy bloom. And this is just an example to show you how our technology is not good only for preventive treatment, but also can treat heavy bloom if that's the case. So in the Caloosahatchee River, we treated dozens of residential canals with few applications over a 2-week period. We had all immediate results with the lake guard treatment. Cyanobacterial scum and the associated odor that comes with decaying algae that smells like sewage were eliminated within 24 hours, and cyanotoxin levels dropped significantly to below EPA thresholds. We never allowed this to happen in Lake Minneola. Our goal was to keep Lake Minneola bloom-free and not to resort to even treating the lake with doses that is up to 20 to 40 folds higher than the preventative measures we've done in Lake Minneola. So in Lake Minneola, what we've done during the 7-month project we started with 2 initial treatments, averaging 5 pounds per acre, and then followed by 4 preventive treatments, mainly to prevent the cyanobacteria that was flowing from Lake Minnehaha and Palatalcaha from the south to take hold in Lake Minneola. But those preventive treatments were very low doses of 0.7 pound per acre. And we also deployed 8 spot treatments, averaging 5 pounds for the entire lake. So preventive treatments require extremely low doses. Of note, our label deemed safe the use of up to 294 pounds per acre. But again, we used barely 1 pound per acre when we do the preventive measures. And just to compare that, if we have heavy bloom or ongoing bloom, we still can treat it, but then we have to resort to 20 to 40 times higher fold of treatment. Again, the key was continuous monitoring, 2 to 4 times per month. And during the treatment application, we did not disrupt any recreational activity in the lake. And I doubt if anybody even noticed we were doing treatments or doing any monitoring throughout our campaign in Lake Minneola. Of note, all the recreational or sporting events that were scheduled for 2021 took place on time, and people enjoyed the lake, and we kept the lake open for recreation for everybody to enjoy. The last slide I want to share with you is that we kept Lake Minneola bloom-free despite heavy blooms occurring in the southern lakes. And our technology showed there is Our technology, as I mentioned earlier, delivers a safe environment. So there is no adverse environmental impact observed during the project. Even we didn't see any adverse consequence on the fish population. So this data that you show on the graph is the courtesy of the Department of Florida Fish and Wildlife Conservation Commission, and it's a count of the largemouth bass population in the lake. So again, our project shows that we have an efficacious treatment, remediation for harmful algal bloom that is cost efficient, environmentally safe, and scalable. So we checked all the boxes that were required from us in the initial innovative grant proposal. And to summarize this Lake Minneola project, the innovative grant identified an environmentally safe and scalable solution to HABs. Lake Minneola was maintained bloom-free and remained open for all recreational activities. Cyanotoxin levels were kept under control to below detection limits. That's very important. Again, our goal was to keep the cyanotoxin level below 2 ppb or 2 parts per billion. We kept the cyanotoxin level much lower than that threshold even, and oftentimes it was undetectable level. Very importantly, the lake was open for recreation and all sporting events took place as scheduled. And despite heavy bloom conditions in lakes upstream of Lake Minneola, proper monitoring coupled with preventive measures kept the lake safe for all. And in my final slides, I want to just have a concluding remark of how we can keep not just only Lake Minneola, but all Florida waterways safe. So the lake guard technology delivers a safe environment and improves the quality of life and the local economy. A lot of those events can disrupt daily life, affect our quality of life, and even the economy if the economy relies on tourism to that lake. And the lake guard technology can be easily deployed to the entire Claremont chain of lakes and any large water body in the state of Florida. And I hope we can continue partnering with our partners in DEP in South St. John's Water Management District, South Florida Water Management District, and treat more lakes and keep them bloom-free for safe environment. With that, I would like really to thank everybody involved in and all those dedicated officials in the state of Florida, namely Governor Ron DeSantis, Florida legislator, mainly the Lake County Legislative Delegation, Florida Department of Environmental Protection. I want to give a shout out to Ed Smith and Chad Kennedy for their help. I thank you. We all thank you for your comments and for your supervision. And of course, our partners at St. John's River Water Management District, Tiffany, Dean, and Eric, you were fantastic. Thank you so much for your partnership. Florida Department of Agriculture and Consumer Services, the Florida Fish and Wildlife Conservation Commission, namely Brandon, Sharon, Natalie, and Danielle, and the Lake, and last but not least, the Lake County Water Authority, namely Jason and Steve. Thank you all very much. And I would like also to give a shout to two of Lake Minneola residents, one that resides on the east side of Lake Minneola, one resides on the west side of Lake Minneola, Cindy and Gerald. Thank you so much for keeping an eye out for the lake and for your advice and help in this project. And with that, I'll be happy to answer any of your questions.
Great. Thank you very much, Wally. That was very lovely. We don't have any questions right at the moment. I'm going to give people a few more minutes if anything is coming to mind, but I've got a couple here for you. So what were some signs that could have indicated to your team that a harmful algal bloom might be developing or approaching? So you talked about a lot of the preventative treatments instead of like treating a bloom once it had actually arisen. So what were kind of some things that you guys noticed when you were out on the water that told you that a bloom could be potentially approaching?
Thank you, Tiffany. That's a great question. So when we studied the lake at the beginning, we assigned several sampling points to give us an idea or to give us a big picture of the overall health of the lake or how the lake looks like. So one was the center of the lake, which is critical. So that tells us, the center of the lake, the deepest part of it, what the conditions are. The beach area or the ramp, because that's where there's a body contact in these locations. So we want to make sure these places are safe. And we collected samples from the entry point, from the inflow point, just north of Paratlaca and that canal that leads to Hiawatha to Minneola, and of course the outflow point where it goes on the northwest side of the lake. And just to complement it, we also took another sample from the north side. So what we noticed that, and that's when we came to the conclusion that cyanobacteria was coming from the south side of Lake Minneola, is we noticed that, and again, here the key is the extensive monitoring. The extensive monitoring was key for us to identify when there's a bloom happening, if there is a buildup of any cyanobacteria, or if there is a localized buildup that could spread to the rest of the lake. And what we noticed, especially during the maintenance phase, that the lake will be bloom-free, but we can see higher cyanobacterial levels at the entry point. And during the blooms that happened in Lake Palatlakaha and Minnehaha, what we did is we actually extended our monitoring to those lakes to make sure where, how much cyanobacteria is coming in to Lake Minneola. And we responded quickly to any formation of blooms. And that's when we did the preventive treatment, that we went around the lake and we focused at the inflow point going to the center, because that's how we noticed the main flow was going at certain points. So the key is comprehensive monitoring, mainly picking the right locations to do the monitoring, and having the location at the entry point where we saw that any cyanobacterial concentration coming from there will end up in the lake, and we saw how it spreads. It was very important to study the currents, the wind, to make sure that we do the proper treatment, position our product in the right way, allow the natural movement of the wind and currents to take it where the cyanobacteria is, so it can mimic that movement home into these cyanobacterial aggregates, and time release the active ingredient to get rid of it.
Great, thank you very much. That was thorough. Appreciate that. We do have one question now from one of our listeners, and their question is, what are the long-term impacts of treatment to wildlife, plants, and possibly people? Is there any data from longer-running customers who have employed this process? Thanks.
That's a very good question. So we do monitor every aspect of the lake from our global outreach and treatment. We immediately notice. So what happens is when cyanobacterial bloom take hold of a lake, you have a single species dominating the ecosystem. And if you have a single species dominating the ecosystem, that's not a healthy lake. So what I want to do is eliminate the infection, if you'd like. It's some sort of an infection of the water body. And that's how we see cyanobacteria. So we want to eliminate that infection, then allow the body of the water to heal itself. And the way it does that, once you eliminate the infection, you allow other organisms that are inhibited, or their growth is inhibited by the cyanobacterial growth or cyanobacterial scum, to grow in its place, compete for similar resources, redistribute the nutrients, and then create a healthier lake. These smaller organisms or beneficial green algae are important base food source for higher organisms to feed on, that they can grow on it, and with it the whole ecosystem around it will also thrive, from mammals to birds around that lake. So from what we've seen throughout the world is, first of all, there's a good track record of the hydrogen peroxide application. We know, it was used in algae for 20 years. We use even significantly lower than any other generic product out there first, and then once we see a healthier lake, we can see the thriving community coming through around. As for the harm to the environment or even to humans, because of the time release mechanism, the concentration of the effective concentration of the hydrogen peroxide is less than 1 ppm, 1 part per million, which is a fraction. Small fraction of 1 ppm, oftentimes 0.002 ppm of that fraction. To give you an indication what that means, when you brush your teeth every day in the morning or use a mouthwash, the effective concentration of the hydrogen peroxide in the mouthwash or the toothpaste is 15,000 ppm. Again, I'm using a fraction of 1 ppm, so the harm to the environment is low. So the main technology, which I didn't want to go into it now, is to provide prolonged oxidative stress. That prolonged oxidative stress initiates a programmed cell death in cyanobacteria. That programmed or apoptosis-like programmed cell death, it's a strong biological signal that will signal to other cyanobacteria in the area that there's a stress condition, and they also will go through a programmed cell death. So what we do is a community-wide collapse only of cyanobacteria. Other organisms, beneficial algae, humans are by far less sensitive to that low-grade oxidative stress that they don't even feel. Again, we are equipped, and other organisms are equipped to neutralize hydrogen peroxide, but not the cyanobacteria. And that's why it's a very effective and safe treatment to the environment, namely because the hydrogen peroxide decomposes quickly to water and oxygen.
Great, thank you for that, Waleed. And you kind of did touch on this a bit, I think, in your previous explanation. But our next question is going to be, how does the treatment target toxic cyanobacteria without affecting other organisms, including non-toxic phytoplankton?
So again, it's the low, it's again the prolonged time release mechanism that will deliver very low oxidative stress. Any organism, namely beneficial green algae, plants, and humans, mammals, they are by far less sensitive. We've done a lot of studies. Hydrogen peroxide was studied for a long time. We've done our own study on fisheries. We even overdosed in one of the controls to see the effect on fisheries, and we didn't see any adverse effect. And in Lake Minneola, and that's what we were appreciative to the Fish and Wildlife Conservation Commission, that they collected data about the fisheries. So you can see in this slide. Do I still share my screen, Tiffany?
Yes, we can still see you. Yeah.
Yeah. So this is in November. That's just before we started, or that's the first week we were doing assessment. Didn't do any treatment, and in March we can see no adverse effect. I mean, again, it needs more monitoring. We need more seasons and more. So they do the fish count or the assessment in the fall and in the spring. So we're waiting still for the fall of 2022, but we're monitoring the situation to see. But all of our monitoring, and we did heavy monitoring from sequencing to cell count to algal enumeration. We've done so many different monitoring throughout the project that we didn't see any adverse effect, any change in the chemistry, any change in the total global condition of the lake, namely because we never allowed cyanobacteria to take hold. We never allowed it to get to that thick scum that's going to destroy the environment and make irreversible damage to it.
Right. Thank you for that. Our next question, how does the cost of this technology compare with more traditional whole lake chemical treatments using algicides?
So in our when you use the generic products, allow me to use the word generic products here. If you use the generic product, it's limited to, you hit an application wall. So you have to crisscross the lake, apply the product, and you hit an application wall when you get to the hundreds and thousands of acres. So these technologies, and oftentimes they try to do it, they would have to close the lake for 10 days, even 2 weeks, apply significantly higher amounts of the algicide, and disrupt the community, oftentimes with no good results. Again, we have thousands of successful applications using our technology. We use significantly less. To mind you, we did 2 main treatments and followed by 4 preventive treatments. These treatments took from 2 hours to half a day, that's it. And while we were doing the treatment, we just put signs to say that there's actively treating the lake, but we didn't disrupt the boating activities throughout the lake. And we made sure that the residents can enjoy the lake, and we didn't allow our product or our treatment to disrupt that activity. So again, because you use significantly lower amount, the application cost is almost negligible. This is what makes it a cost-effective treatment to treat large lakes. I'm talking about the hundreds and thousands of acres.
Gotcha, right. And our next question kind of goes along for treatments. Have you approached the city of Claremont about keeping product on hand for future treatments?
So we are in touch with all the local authorities. At the moment, we applied for a grant with the Lake County Water Authority, fantastic folks over there, to continue the project. And this time, not only to Lake Minneola, we're going to extend it to Lake Minnehaha. So we're going to try to keep also Lake Minnehaha bloom free. And if we do so, we're not going to see cyanobacterial cells flowing into Lake Minneola. So we can keep two lakes bloom-free at the same time. But at the same time, we have discussions with the Department of Environmental Protection, Florida Department of Environmental Protection, to have what we call stockpile. We are working with them to have a strategic reserve, and this strategic reserve proved very effective when we treated, and I'm going to go back to that slide, when we treated the C-43 canal. So the treatment was done through a strategic reserve or a stockpile of our product that was given to DEP, that was lended to South Florida Water Management District to do those emergency application that we've done back in May of June of 2021. So hopefully we're continuing these conversations. We're going to expand our reach, and hopefully the strategic reserve or the stockpiling, that's going to be a critical point for all counties and all districts to be able to use our product and apply it properly. And of course, we will lend our expertise and help in any way we can.
Very good, thank you. And I apologize to our listeners. I think I just realized that I've been reading these questions in reverse order. This was probably the first question posed to us. And again, you've kind of gone over this a little bit. Can you give us an idea of the cost of this project?
So the project, the grant itself was $1.7 million for the duration of the 7 months. That included extensive monitoring, subcontracting, laboratory work, product allocation, and treatments. So that was the overall grant that we were given through the Department of DEP and with partnership with St. John's River Water Management District.
Great, thank you. I think that may have been our last one in the questions. And does anyone else, maybe in our staff, other panelists, or if anyone else listening has another question, you're welcome to type it in now. And if you can't think of it or don't get to it, then again, we will put all this information on our webpage, and you're more than welcome to email us and Waleed afterward and ask your question. I'll have one more, Waleed, just to give anyone else who has a lingering question time to type. So what were some of the types of blue-green algae, the cyanobacteria, that you saw in this lake? And was it more or less typical of what you usually see in lakes like this, in particular in Florida?
Yeah, I mean, a great question. So Lake Minneola is a unique, like in our perspective. We treated, again, we had thousands of different applications, multiple lakes. Oftentimes, it's it's alkaline or basic or pH above 7 environment of the water, and oftentimes in the summer. Lake Minneola is unique. Lake Minneola blooms primarily in the wintertime, which is February, March. This so in the summer, and that was unique because the bloom that I showed you that happened in 2020, again, the same bloom, similar bloom happened in Lake Minnehaha because it was not treated in 2021. So it blooms in that, and it's also acidic environment, pH below 7. So it's not unique. It's a very unique situation that we know. So, and I didn't want to go into details. We mentioned that probably in of course, there's a final report that had details, everything we've done, all the results will be available for you to look at and study, including the weekly reports that we presented to St. John's River Water Management District, the monthly report, including the final report. So when we started the project, the dominant species was actually Solitoria. Solitoria was dominating. We treated it, and for a while the lake was, the levels of cyanobacteria was under control. And then once the bloom happened in the winter in Lake Minnehaha and Lake Pelatica were flowing, the dominant species was Dolichospermum, or previously known as Anabena. So these are the main one. Of course, we've seen Microcystis, very common cyanobacteria, with other cyanobacteria that at very low levels too. But the one that dominated was Solitoria, then Dolichospermum, and a little bit of Microcystis.
Great, thank you very much. And that you just answered another question that I had passed up, and I apologize again. I'm trying to read this on a tiny screen, I can't expand the questions for some reason. But their question was, is there a specific species of blue-green algae affecting the lake? And is this common in other freshwater lakes? And you did go over that, the
Yeah,
oscillatoria first,
yeah.
and you
I
saw a
mean,
lot of the
these
Dilophospirma
are
annabana. Yeah,
these are common planktonic cyanobacteria. Yes, these are
right.
common cyanobacteria that we find in other places too.
Okie dokie, yeah. All right, and scrolling through here one more time to make sure I got all the questions. And I think that's it, unless anyone had anything else. Does any one of our panelists or any other staff on have any questions they'd like to ask? Oh, here's one here. What is the estimated cost of maintaining Lake Minneola bloom monitoring and treatment on an annual basis? So if you guys, I guess, were to keep up what you had been doing, and you did kind of touch on this, I think, with the cost of this project, but if it were to continue on an annual basis, I guess Natalie's asking what would be the estimated cost of that?
So again, that's a great question. From my perspective, again, just preventing Lake Minneola from having bloom is an easy task to do. But a better way to do it if you can just contain the bloom in the whole Claremont chain of lakes. Initially, the cost will be more, but once we go to maintenance mode, it's affordable. I cannot really estimate because again, our approach should be to treat the whole lake and don't have a source that have constant cyanobacteria flowing into those lakes. We want to control or keep the cell count or the cyanobacteria load in these lakes to under control so we can go through the maintenance mode. But it should be quite affordable to keep the whole Claremont chain of lakes at play and bloom free and open for recreation. And with it, because there's no constant flow or we contain the source where the cyanobacteria is coming, especially in the winter time or February or March, Lake Minneola also will benefit from that as well.
Right, very good. I think that's everything. And if anyone, if I've missed your question, I apologize. Again, I've got a very the scroll mechanism is very, very narrow, so I'm just having to really squint to try to see and make sure I've got everyone's questions, but I think I have. I think that's everyone. All right. I guess that's everything. And again, if anyone else has any lingering questions later on, the information for Waleed, his email address is available on our website. And let's see, I don't think we have that on here, but let me, Waleed, I might share my screen really quick just so I can bring up Dean's first slide so that I can give people a visual of the website address. If they want to write it down really quick, then they will be able to do that. So let me do that real quick. All right. And can you see that, Waleed? The algal bloom remediation. Okay, great. So everyone, if you have any more questions or if you want to view this presentation again, it'll be up on our website in a couple days. The web address is right here. And you can also just navigate there if you just type in St. Johns River Water Management District and go to projects, and it'll list a list of our projects and lakes, and click on Lake Minneola. And that's going to have everything that we've done to date. It's going to have all of the treatment application notifications and the background on Bluegreen Water Technologies and the first public meeting, and soon and upcoming it's going to have this final public meeting here, and also Waleed's email information. If you have any other lingering questions, you can shoot those directly to him and he'll be happy to answer those for you. So I'm going to check the questions box one more time and see if anyone. And Jennifer, if you're on and you see a question that I missed, you're more than welcome to bring it to my attention.
Yeah, the one at the bottom about is how would it be implemented with the local government and the potential O&M cost?
Okay.
Would it be done by a local government or contractor?
Okay, was that the question?
Yeah.
Okay, great. Okay, there you go, Waleed.
Okay, so again, great question. Again, we are working closely with the districts, namely the St. Johns River Water Management District, South Florida Water Management District, and other counties, guided by the DEP. The governor's office is moving to continue with these innovative technologies because they are important. They identified an important tool to remediate harmful algal blooms, but they're also going through funding of proven technology as well. So we're hoping there will be funds first to increase the strategic reserve, the stockpile of our product for anybody to use in the state of Florida, more so to allow for bigger projects, larger lakes. I mean, hopefully we're going to move from Claremont Chain of Lakes to Lake Apopka, hopefully, and eventually, at our eyesight, we want to get to Lake Okeechobee as well. And there's a plan, long-term plan to deal with Lake Okeechobee as well. So the local authorities are trying now to find the proper funding to continue these innovative technology, proven technology after that, to keep Florida waterways safe for everybody's recreation. Now we're identifying tools. There is a tool that shown efficacy not only as a preventive measure, like I just showed you in Lake Minneola, it also showed emergency application, like I showed you in the C-43 canal with the Caloosahatchee River just recently. So all these are ongoing discussions with the Florida, the governor's office, Florida DEP, and the districts to continue this endeavor and eventually get to the point that we can. I mean, our aim is really for the state of Florida to be the leader, the world leader, in treating and remediating harmful algal blooms. So actually, all governments can look to Florida and see how, which is, you know, a state that has a lot of water and has issues with algal blooms that now other parts of the world are suffering from as well. So now we want to make Florida the focal point for world leaders and other states to look up to and follow their suit and how to remediate and prevent harmful algal bloom from happening in their waterways.
Very good, very good. We do have one new question, two new questions. Can this chemical be permitted for use in other water bodies now that it has been used in Lake Minneola and canals in South Florida? No special permitting is required through FDACS and FWC in the future.
So great question, and I think I missed that. So although it was on the slide, and I apologize, I missed mentioning that. So our product is EPA approved, and they are EPA approved, and they are NSF 60 standard certified for treatment in drinking water. It is also registered in the state of Florida through the FDACS. So all these permittings are in place, but in order to treat waterways, we have to partner with Florida Fish and Wildlife Conservation Commission to give us permits to treat specific water bodies. And we hope to expand that as well. There's an initiative through the DEP as well to make that streamlined faster and quicker, especially for emergency applications, and not only for harmful algal bloom or blue-green algae, but also for red tides as well. So all that is in play to get this, but the main certifications that we needed, it's in place, and you can use the product. And again, there's a stockpile of that product in the state of Florida for their discretion to use anytime.
Okay, great, thank you. And I do see the other one, Jennifer, unless you unless you see another one that I missed. It says, I apologize for tuning in late. Was a definitive source of nutrients determined?
A very interesting question. That's a great question. So, I mean, we know there's what we call the main drivers or the main suspects for having harmful algal bloom. Again, Lake Minneola is a very unique lake. It's acidic, as I mentioned, which is unlike any other lake that is usually alkaline, pH way above 7. And it blooms in the colder weather there rather than in the summertime. So, and I failed to mention that, I do apologize. So before we even started the product, we dived into 60 years of data of Lake Minneola. It was gathered through Lake County, the universities, DEP, they all gathered it, and it's actually at the Lake County website. So we dived deep into those data. Over time, and we still continued with those monitoring, not only from one point, from multiple points throughout the lake, we did not see significant increase in nutrients to explain why you started to have this harmful algal bloom happening just recently. Again, 20, 30, 40 years ago, I mean, the lake was pristine, was the pride of the Clarendon chain of lakes. The events started to happen more so lately. And there's no indication that the nutrient level changed, especially the phosphorus level, which is a limiting nutrient for cyanobacterial growth. That did not change over 60 years at the time. More importantly, we looked into even, is it a change in temperature? But we looked at, again, the 60-year data, including the data we collected. The water temperature throughout the seasons did not change significantly as well. So the source of the algal bloom is still evasive. Again, Lake Minneola is a downstream lake. There's other lakes that are upstream that flow into it. So we didn't see those usual suspects as the culprit for what's happening in Lake Minneola. If we know anything about harmful algal bloom, and I'm quoting a Nature publication back in 2019, that we know that we know that harmful algal bloom are increasing in intensity and in frequency. So at the moment we see more of it, and once we see bloom, it's more severe than the year before. I mean, again, it's a trend. It's not happening every year, but that's the trend we're seeing. Same thing with Lake Minneola and other lakes in Florida and throughout the United States and the world too. So again, the way for us to attack this problem is attack or tackle the source of infection. Again, we see cyanobacterial bloom as bacterial infection of water bodies, and we need targeted treatments against that specific species to heal the lake, allow it to go back and restore the health of the lake to where it was. And this is the main conclusion we can actually give the folks, that there is a tool now to remediate and maintain healthy lakes throughout the state of Florida.
Great, thank you very much, Waleed. Let's see, I don't see any other questions. Jennifer's been kind of helping me keep an eye out for any questions that I missed. Okay, and she says there are no others. And all right, if that's all the questions we have for today, we can go ahead and conclude. And I'd like to thank Dr. Waleed Nasser and Dr. Dean Dauberful for being our presenters today, and of course all of the help we had in getting this set up. Pam and Jennifer and CJ, thank you guys so much for getting us up and running and helping us get this meeting organized. And thank you, of course, also especially to all of the attendees for joining us today. And we really, really appreciate your interest and your attention to this project and to this meeting. And again, feel free to check out our website here at SJRWMD.com, projects in Lake Minneola, if you want any more information or if you'd like to contact Waleed with any other questions you may have. So thank you all so much for joining. Thank you, Waleed. We really appreciate your time.
It was a pleasure. Thank you all. And it was a pleasure really just getting to know the lake and fall in love with it like all of our team.
Yes, it is beautiful. And thank you, Dean. Thank you very much for your introduction and for being here today. We appreciate it.
All right. Thank you, Tiffany.
All right. All right. Well, thank you, everyone. And enjoy your weekend and happy holidays.
Happy holidays, everyone. Thank you.
Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.